The new now is here. You need an out-of-the-box user-friendly platform that will help you transition smoothly to the new normal. You need vSmart School. vSmart School is a one-stop teaching and learning online platform perfect for hybrid learning. This two-in-one system caters to your distance learning and classroom management needs. vSmart School supports self-paced, teacher-paced, asynchronous and synchronous formal education online. In vSmart School, students will attend daily online classes and access Vibal's DepEd-aligned digital curriculum from preschool to senior high school. Need content for college? We have them too! With the guidance of parents and teachers, students will follow DepEd's recommended day-to-day lesson calendar for an entire school year. Teachers using vSmart School can also create lessons, schedule classes, and monitor their students' progress. Most importantly, teachers can also live stream or securely conduct online classes through the platform's webinar feature. Looking for a perfect classroom management partner? vSmart School has got you covered as it boasts of an out-of-the-box learning management platform. It provides a library of gamified and interactive materials, a lesson plan repository mapped to the curriculum, assessment tools, and ebooks that feature augmented reality technology. This LMS component of vSmart School is integrated with a learning record system. This means that through the system, teachers and students can track their teaching and learning journey. Not just that, teachers can also monitor students' grades through an electronic grading sheet called Gradebook. And if you need to deploy tests online, you can do so with Test Guru, where you can enjoy thousands of free test questions ready for deployment through the Vibal Test Bank. See? All your distance learning needs are here in vSmart School. Packed with curriculum-aligned content, learners' progress reporting, and ebooks that are AR ready, vSmart School goes beyond the traditional classroom experience. The good news is, you can also enjoy the vSmart School experience without the internet connection through its mobile app. Downloadable from Google Play Store and Apple App Store. So what are you waiting for? Start your virtual classroom with vSmart School.
This school year, bring class discussions at home with vSmart School's webinar feature, where you can conduct classes with your students in real time. Setting up a vSmart webinar is simple. Simply log into your account, go to My Webinars, click Create, and enter your webinar details. Set your webinar to your lesson so your students can join as participants. You can finally start your class. The webinar feature also lets you chat with your students and share slide decks and other learning materials via share screen. Amazing, right? Get vSmart School and launch your remote learning setup for your school today. Email marketing@vivalgroup.com for more details.
Good day, Kavibal, and welcome to our Facebook Live learning session. For the discussion today, the topic will be on From Behaving to Belonging, connecting with students virtually. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions on the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, ka-Vibal? And now, to proceed with our webinar this morning, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Our speaker today is a certified Apple teacher. He's an advocate of e-learning, literacy, teacher education, student affairs program development, and curriculum development. He is a published researcher and national trainer with interest on learner-centered instruction and has continually trained teachers and education leaders from the preschool and tertiary levels. Just recently, he published two professional education textbooks on technology for teaching and learning and the teacher and the community, school culture and organizational leadership. He was born in Bacolod City on April 20, 1996. He has a Bachelor of Secondary Education, majored in English, and currently working on his master's degree at the De La Salle University, Manila. Moreover, he is a licensed professional teacher and a member of the League of Catechists and Religious Educators of the Philippines at the Ateneo de Manila University. Having served the academe for almost 5 years and in various capacities, namely primary, intermediate, and as a tertiary teacher. At present, he is connected with Colegio San Agustin, Bacolod as a senior high school teacher and college instructor. Aside from being a full-time teacher, he is also a professional lecturer in the licensure examination for teachers in various review centers and universities in Bacolod City, Metro Manila, Quezon Province, Iloilo Province, Dumaguete City, and Zamboanga del Norte for the subjects curriculum development, educational technology, teaching profession, social dimensions of education, and facilitating learning. He is currently the educational consultant of all the schools of the Oblates of Notre Dame Sisters all over the Philippines, Mater Carmela Academy, and El Cole Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Mr. Paul Ray Mark and Salsag.
Good morning, everyone, to the 1.4 thousand viewers of Vibal webinar. Thank you for watching and also to the Vibal for having this webinar for everyone. So a blessed morning to all. I would like to begin with through sharing my screen. So there. So we will be talking about practical things today. I will be sharing with you only about some thoughts on transitioning ourselves. Still, we are on the process of transition from behaving to uh, belonging. So this morning, we will be talking about how to connect more with students virtually. Many of us have started already the academic year. Many of us have started already the academic year, and many of us notice already some minor glitches maybe. We've noticed already some of things that needs to be improved for this academic year. I hope that I could offer you tips, suggestions on how to go about it and how to improve our teaching. Let's accept the fact again, or let's be reminded again that we are all not prepared in these learning modalities. May it be online, distance learning, it may be online modular learning, it may be into a radio-based or TV-based. But of course, things needs to be improved. things need to be practiced in order for us to be improved. That's why thank you very much to Vibal for having this professional development online that made available for us teachers all over the Philippines to have a look of different practices, of to have a look of different things that others are doing that might also be applicable on your end. So allow me to share with you some practical things on how to go about it, most especially on online, how to connect with our students virtually. We are now teaching from a different box. We are teaching from a different box, like what I am doing right now, that I'm giving trainings and giving lectures to teachers in a different box, that I am talking to you in a small box up there, like what we are doing now. But also the challenge for us teachers is how can I truly engage with my students given that I am now teaching in a small box like this? Many of us are uncertain. Many of us are kinda confused. Many of us are scared of what will I do next? I do not know what will I do next. We have a lot of emotions, or we have a lot of questions running on our mind up to this time on how to go about this. What will happen if these things happen? So we are now teaching from a different box. Hence, we need to embrace this reality already as teachers. We need to embrace this reality as a teacher. That before embracing that reality, we need first to learn the dynamics of this reality. So that's why we are here to help each other, that you can do it. You can do it. Challenge like this one. Some of you or maybe have experienced this already, that there would be someone or you will be teaching there, and sometimes when you take a look of something or you transition your PowerPoint presentation, and then the moment that you went back to the screen and then you no longer see your students or the kids, where are they? Where are they already? I have this one instance also in a certain school that I'm giving a training. I asked them to make a tech run, and then they do tech run. And then, of course, it's kinder. The teacher is talking there. And then the moment that the teacher asked them, okay, in your imagination, you imagine, you color this picture and on screen, you color. And then the kids immediately said, how can I color? I don't have crayons here. Okay, color. The teacher proceeds to demo how to color, to teach how to, the strokes about in coloring. And then this little girl got lost on screen. And then she is in full back position on screen, meaning you cannot, the teacher cannot see what she is doing. And right after a minute, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then that small girl went back on screen and then showed to the teacher, "Teacher, I'm done." Yun pala, kumuha ng bond paper at nag-color, nag-drawing at nag-color sa likod ng laptop at hindi na nakita ng teacher. So this is very challenging, no? This is very challenging. As well as with, you will be asking your students to show me your videos, and then they are not showing your videos, and then they will tell you, "Sir, ma'am, we can't show our videos because I have unstable internet connection." So that's very challenging for us on our part. But on the part of the students, these are also their dilemmas. These are also their questions. Online class be like, ang hina ng internet, hindi ako makapasok. Hindi ko maintindihan, parang napuputol si ma'am, parang yung connection niya din, parang hindi siya malakas. Ha? Ano daw sabi ni ma'am? Hindi kayo magkaintindihan kapag ganyan. Putol-putol boses ni ma'am. And then there is also one thing, kailan daw deadline? Guys, pasabi kay ma'am, absent muna ako ngayon. Wala akong kuryente dito sa amin. What will happen if that is the case? That, for example, electricity is stripped off. Guys, hindi ako makalog-in. Sobrang hina ng data eh. Andito na nga ako, labas kahit umuulan. Sige, record ko na lang para panoorin mo mamaya. So these are also dilemmas of our students. That it's not only the teacher who is anxious, but also the students. We are in a world of transition, of course. We are all on this together. Allow me to share with you a consoling words from our great father, Saint Augustine. Be not impatient to hear what you are not yet able to understand, but grow that you may be so able. We are in change, in an era of change. But do not stick only on change, but try to grow on the change. Try to grow on what you are experiencing now. So let's learn together. We are in a VUCA ecosystem, but let's try to forget VUCA. Yes, we know that we are in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous ecosystem, but let's try to forget about it. Let's try not to stick only about that, but try to translate volatility into a vision. What is your vision now, given that things are volatile? What to do now? That the students can no longer go out, and then you need to transition yourselves to online teaching. Uncertainty. Many things are uncertain. Ma'am, paano kapag wala na akong internet connection? Ma'am, wala akong HQP or home quarantine pass. Paano ako lalabas? Understanding. Complexity. Things are complex. But then again, you as a teacher are still making it complex. And you was not able to convey to make it clear your expectations. Clarity. Ambiguity. Things, I do not know what will happen next. I do not know what will happen during the exam. I do not know what will happen next year. I do not know what will happen next year. The answer to that, or the antidote to ambiguity, is agility. That we need to be quick in responding, and we need to be quick in giving alternatives. That we need to have a wide array of alternatives. So VUCA needs to be translated to another VUCA. Vision, understanding, clarity, agility. Allow me to share with you my webinar outline. So we will be talking about the context. Most of it would be all about who our students is. What are their characteristics? And how can we adapt the content that we are having, that we are about to deliver to our students in the context of our students, as well as how to teach the method, the practical tips on how to attack these lessons to the Generation Z. If you have noticed, the title slide of my presentation, you have a big Z, because we will be talking about how to teach Generation Z online, how to connect with the Generation Z online. Let's begin with the context. A generation is very important in studies or in being a teacher, because inside the classroom, we are facing a new generation. Maybe a generation not of your generation, but maybe a generation coming from a different generation or a newer generation. But why generation is important? Because it includes those who share historical or social life experiences, that they were born because of these experiences, which is completely different in you, and the effects of which are relatively stable over the course of their lives, and experience tend to distinguish one generation from another, that their experiences is completely different with what you are experiencing. So generation is very important. That this certain generation do have a different experiences, do have a different line of thinking that we need teachers to know, and we need to adapt the pedagogy that we will be utilizing with them. Of course, we have this generation, the matures, born 1945 and earlier. If you are a baby boomer, born 1946 and 1964, one of the characteristics maybe of baby boomer, that these are people who would always to be in control. Where are you going? Anak, saan ka pupunta? Kapag maiinip na, or the kid will fed up, the student will tell a boomer. That's one thing. Generation X was born in 1965 to 1976. Millennial from 1977 to 1995. And the classroom, the people, the persons inside the classroom are all Generation Z, born 1996 and later. So these are our clienteles. These are our students. Let's try to talk about the problem of generation gap. That we cannot enter, Or sometimes, of course, it will lead you not touching the hearts and of our students simply because that we have this concept of generation gap, that there is a gap between the student and the teacher. Like for example, the teacher is a boomer and then here comes the student who is like this, who is a generation Z. So therefore, as a baby boomer, for example, we need to learn how this generation Z learns. We need to learn their lingo, their language, and what they are doing, what they do like, and how they easily learn. Like for example, if you have a business, you need not to just to stay there, but to reach out to the clienteles, what the clienteles want in order for your business to be saleable. That's also applied to education. In order for you to be saleable, you need to try harder on how to market yourselves with this generation, how to make my lessons appealing, how to make my lessons engaging, given this. The problem is this generation gap. We do have a hard time of teaching the students because of this concept of generation gap. That many of the teachers will be telling me, sir, napakahirap ng mga estudyante ngayon. Di ba? Nagdadrama yung teacher. Napakahirap ng estudyante ngayon. Parang hindi ko na sila maintindihan. And yung estudyante sasagot din, ma'am, hindi ka din namin maiintindihan. Oh, di ba? That's sometimes a shared emotion. No? Sometimes that's a shared emotion. Yung nangyayari, ito, tingnan nyo. Teacher at the beginning of the school year, ang ganda. Pagdating na ng teacher at the end of the school year, tingnan nyo. That's something that is very challenging for us teachers. But let's try to talk about this one. 5 things young people need. This is coming from Carol Dean in her book Almost Christian, what the fifth of our teenagers is telling the American church, even though it's more of theological book. It's good to talk about what these young people need. Number 1 is creed, that they need to be certain about their faith. Sometimes they act like this and that because they are not certain about their faith. And that is where religious education comes in. Community, that these are young people, or these are people or persons that would always want to belong, who would always go with their peers and adults. If you try to take a look, they do malling, right? They do malling. They stroll in malls, but they're not buying something, right? They're not buying something. They can stroll there for almost a half day, walking, seeing things, no? They do malling, but they're not buying because of that concept that young people need community, that they are happy to be with their peers. And also, one of the characteristics of young people is the concept of call, that these are people who do have a thirst of finding a purpose greater than themselves. Why they are very inquisitive, why they are want to experience this and that, why they have a motto of try and see, because of this concept that they are there of finding a purpose greater than themselves. One thing that I like also is that young people are hopeful people. They're hopeful people. They're equipped to know what there is next. That they are always thinking of what happens next. Tingnan mo yung mga bata, kapag sinasabi mo minsan na, naku, hindi pinagtuunan ng pansin, okay na lang sa kanila yung ganito. Because they are hopeful people, that they know that there would be still next, that they can do better next. And also they are people that they have this concept of world to share it with, that they are there to pass it to the next generation. So this, for me, summarizes the 5 things that young people need, that they are in need of creed, of community, of call, of hope, of world to share it with. Hence, if we try to summarize, these are people who would always want for voice, for choice, and for chance. Minsan, hindi tayo nagkakaintindihan. Minsan nagkakaproblema tayo sa mga bata sa loob ng classroom dahil minsan baka hindi natin pinakikinggan, hindi natin pinapipili, at hindi natin binibigyan ng pagkakataon. May mga bagay tayo na kailangan nating pakinggan din yung mga bata. May mga oras din na kailangan nating pagbibigyan. May mga oras din na kailangan natin bigyan sila ng bigyan sila ng bagay na dapat pagpipilian nila. That these are people, these are students who would always want to have a voice, of a choice, and of a chance. Let's try to talk about it with the use of the Gen Z characteristics. I got this from the book of similar, Generation Z Goes to College, published by John Willie and Sons. Number one characteristic of Generation Z are these are kids who want to have instant access on or on demand. That they have this concept of instant gratification. Because of this, that knowledge now tends to be ubiquitous, that it can easily be Googled, right? It can be easily Googled. I don't know this concept. Okay, you Google it and then there, the information is there. So the challenge to us teachers, if you focus more on content. Amazon, for example, that they can easily buy things in Lazada. And also they can book a car through Grab. And one thing that is very challenging is they can do binge watching through Netflix. That they can stay up to the whole day, up to the next day, just watching Netflix. Number two is also the concept of multicultural and blended families. Because of the instant access, these students are now exposed to different cultures. And that exposure to different cultures, different types of families, of course, we have different types of families that is very challenging in terms of our faith now, is that there are single parents or families also with that. So because of that thing, because of that concept, one characteristic of the Generation Z is that they are exposed to new ways of thinking. They are exposed to new ways of thinking. That's why inside a classroom, they have various ways of thinking, that they have different lines of thoughts because of this concept of multicultural and blended families. One characteristic also that these are students who would always want immediate feedback and constant but private contact. That's why these are students that I called as glass gen. They are also called as glass gen. Why glass gen? Because they are always in front of a glass, of a laptop, of an iPad, of an Android phone. That's why they are considered as glass gen. But one of the loopholes maybe, or shadows of this generation is that they do have a higher rates of obesity and unhealthy lifestyle because they prefer interactive over physical active. They prefer interactive over physical active. So something that is very challenging for us teachers and also to parents as well. Also, in terms of neurodiversity, 3 to 5% of the world population has ADHD. And in accordance with the ADHD Society of the Philippines, 80% of the adolescents have ADHD symptoms. And also, this is one of the primordial challenge of teachers in the primary level, the neurodiversity in the classroom. But also, ADHD kids are inattentive, impulsive, and hyperactive, even though these are considered as shadows of the ADHDs, but there are also lights of ADHDs, that they are productive, they are broad-minded, and they are also multitaskers. This is what I've noticed also to them. One thing that is very challenging for us teachers is also this. In the year 2000, the average human attention span is 12 seconds rather. And in 2015, the average human attention span is 8 seconds. But now the average attention span of a goldfish, 9 seconds. That if you try to take a look, what will happen to 9 seconds? How can I go about it if that is the case? How will I teach if the attention span is 9 seconds? Later on, we'll try to talk about that. And also, one thing that kids would do, or the Generation Z would do, is stealth mode. That they don't want to be traced. They don't want their parents or the teacher would see what they are doing in social media. Diba? Meron mga sa Facebook, merong mga hide or ina-hide yung itong post na to, hindi makikita ng ganitong teacher or ng parent ko that they are stealth mode. Yun pala, nagrarant na pala sa'yo. Oh, hindi ka maganda magturo, hindi ka naman nagtuturo, puro ka lang pa-watch ng YouTube video. Hindi mo makita. Saan ba yun? Saan ba yun? Hindi ko makita because they are in stealth mode. That is one of the characteristics of Generation Z. Number 4, hyper-aware multitaskers. That this generation think in a 4D manner. That they are into thinking a lot. That they can do many things. Like for example, the 40% of Gen Z, according to research, call themselves as addicts. And they are doing 2 versus 5 screens. They can create documents on computer, they can research on phone, they can note-taking in tablet, finishing show on Netflix plus FaceTiming with friend. You can do that all together, but they are doing that in your class. And you need to be vigilant about it. Kasi baka nagkaklase ka dyan, nagtuturo ka live or nagwe-webinar ka dyan, and then yung bata, may cellphone pala dyan, tumatanggo-tango sa'yo, pero may nag-chat pala sa cellphone, diba? And sadly, this could link to a mental health issue. Number 5, one thing that is good with Generation Z kiddos are that they are creative and entrepreneurial. If you try to take a look in research, 25% post original videos weekly, and 72% want their own business one day. That's how ambitious they are. But no, it's not only about ambition, that most of them are making things happen. That they don't want not to make things happen. They want to achieve it. So these are the characteristics of Generation Z. These are the characteristics of the kids that we will be facing later on, that we are facing now. But a word of caution, most of our Generation Z kiddos do have a lot of positive sides. But maybe on a personal note, this might be a negative side. What is that? Generation Z is considered also as a woke generation. Woke generation. W-O-K-E. Why they are considered as woke generation? What is woke? It's an adjective. That these are people who are well-informed and up-to-date. They are well-informed and up-to-date. And they are alert to injustice in society, especially racism. We need to stay angry and stay woke. That is, they are considered as a woke generation. Let's apply that in a school setting. For example, may hindi sila nagustuhan sa'yo. And sometimes we need to be vigilant also, and we need to be cautious as teachers that these are the characteristics of Generation Z. That baka nakikita mo minsan, nagrarant na sa Facebook, nakikita na doon yung mga pangalan mo, na etong teacher na ganito, hindi siya nagtuturo, nagaganito lang. And minsan, the challenge there is that it might go viral because these are woke generation and they give sympathy to each other in social media. That the agora of woke generation is the social media. Why social media? Because of the concept of the democratization of ideas. That there is no boundaries in social media, that there is no limits in social media, that they can say whatever they want. One of the challenge of this online distance learning is that they are in solitary at home. Hence, they don't have peers to talk to. Hence, they will be talking in social media. For example, if there are things that they don't like, and then they can talk to their parents, they can talk to someone else, they will be giving that, or they will be showing that in social media. One of the challenge in this, for example, the common Filipino lines used in smart shaming by Jericho Ventura. These are concepts also of cancel culture. If they don't like you, you can easily be canceled. Like for example, dami mong alam, or edi wow, diba? Or edi ikaw nang magaling, or bida-bida. O, ako na bobo, ikaw na matalino. Oh, deep. No, nosebleed dead, di ko maintindihan. Because of also that, the cultures of the Generation Z. Question, Are our classes opportunities to learn and practice dialogue? They might be ranting in social media simply because that our classes are opportunities only to listen, but only to listen for us, but we was not able to listen to them. I would like to share with you big ideas from the first part. Globalization now is facilitated by technology, that we are on shift. We are on a quick transition to online learning. And reality of pluralism and multiculturalism, that's why our students do have a wide variety of thinking. They are exposed to various line of thinking and the role of schools in facing these realities. Number two, given those realities of the students, let's talk about the content. Let's talk about the content. In the book of Monica Burns in the year 2017, published by Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, she reminded us of the mindset of tasks before apps. That it is a reminder that even as we consider how technology helps students to do new amazing things with their learning, we must always place learning goals at the forefront. Kasi baka, we are on a mindset na gustong-gusto ng mga bata yung may mga applications, gusto ng mga bata na ganito, may video, ganito, ganyan. And then, at the end of the day, these tasks or these applications might not be connected with the learning goals that you are giving. And that is a word of caution. How might we design bite-sized content? I got this from Professor Galvin Ngo of Ateneo de Manila University, that in designing content now online, we need to divide it into discrete, meaningful chunks. That there must have a constant checkpoint for every chunks. Given of the distance that we have now with our students, it might be very difficult to check for understanding. Hence, one thing is to divide it into chunks and give a checkpoint for every chunk if they got it right before proceeding. We have this concept of cognitive load that there is, for example, in the theory of cognitive load by John Sweller, the intrinsic cognitive load, complexity of new information, that this new information would be too complex to our students. What will I do? Simplify. Distracts working memory from processing new information, given that there are a lot of distractions at home. What will you do? Reduce. Deep processing of new information, integrating it with previous learning, maximize. That we need to simplify and reduce, but also in order for the students to learn much more faster is to integrate the new concept with that of the previous knowledge of our students. Ways to minimize cognitive load. These are simple tips that it might be useful to you. Use simple designs and presentations. Like for example, white background will do, hindi nang lumilipad-lipad pa, no? Kasi it's too distracting for our students. Use negative space in laying out handouts and presentations. And then you chunk information. You divide it into different subparts. And have regular reflection that develops metacognition. That you need to have constant pause every now and then to check for understanding if the students are really listening, if the students are really catching up with what you are talking about. So these are ways to minimize cognitive load. Number two, how we might intentionally design synchronous and asynchronous activities. Most of the teachers do have a hard time now to delineate what will go asynchronous and what will go synchronous. So that's why I thought that intentionally, because you need to design synchronous and asynchronous activities intentionally. So this is in accordance with research. Asynchronous and synchronous e-learning, these are the advantages and disadvantages of the two. For asynchronous e-learning, cognitive participation is a plus, that it increased reflection and ability to process information. On the other hand, the plus or the positive side of synchronous e-learning is personal participation. the presence of you as a teacher. So it's it increased arousal, motivation, and convergence on meaning. Let's try to allow me to give you tips and suggestions on how to intentionally design synchronous and asynchronous activities. There are two ways to launch a lesson for distance learning. It may be student-paced, and that is asynchronous. The teachers can use student-paced mode and have students complete the lesson at their own time, on their own pace. But the disadvantage is the students are in solitary mode, that they might got bored. Live teacher pace, teachers can use live mode through video conferencing when they want their students to sync and follow them as they teach. Now, teaching tips for synchronous live classes. Provide useful, unique material, but don't ever duplicate asynchronous content. If you gave that already in your asynchronous online learning module, if that is already evident in your learning packets, for example, don't duplicate that again to your lesson online, to your live classes, or to your webinar. But do find ways to make connections to support asynchronous material. That your synchronous class will be an avenue in making things clear in the asynchronous, in the asynchronous. You make things clear, you synthesize, and you summarize, or you ask them questions, or you tell them to ask questions of what are the things that they was not able to understand, or things that is very difficult for them to understand. Determine your video conferencing tool, and don't ever do switching every now and then. If it would be a burden and it would give anxiety to the students that you continue to switch for video conferencing tool every day. Like for example, in Monday you use a different conferencing tool. The next day you use another conferencing tool. It would be very difficult for our students. Number two, tell the what to expect. You tell them to what to expect and how they can prepare for online class participation. You tell them what will happen to the online class, what you will be doing in an online class. And then also, you send discussion questions in advance to help to guide your discussion in order for you to be on time. And you need to also to manage the time that is given to you. Another synchronous teaching tips is to find a quiet workspace and ask students to do the same. Yung challenge yan parate. Kasi minsan, syempre, live class ka dyan, minsan parang may mga manok dyan, no? May mga asong nagtatahol. Diba? So that's very challenging. And also, record your lessons and share with students because there might be students along the way who have valid reasons of, for example, naputol yung internet connection, unstable yung internet connectivity, or nagka-brown out. So, record your lessons and share with students. As well as, mirror what you say and what they see. Kasi baka, nagsasalita ka dyan, hindi naman nila maiintindihan. And much better is to use an external microphone to maximize the best audio connection. So that's one thing na dapat natin gawin as teachers. How might we design engaging and empowering learning activities, not just content? Sadly, there are still misconceptions, no, or wrong practices that we are doing that they dump content na dapat full of readings. Magbibigay ako, daming readings para sa kanila. Ang daming YouTube videos. Let's try to think about if dumping content is effective or we need to go with generating an experience. We need to go with of providing activities for the students to generate an experience rather than of dumping content. Student engagement is very important rather than dumping content. That we need to go beyond basic lectures and we need to translate passive learning into active learning. that we need not only to provide a lot of readings, but we need to give opportunities for the students also to be active and to do things and to study on their own. Because in research, in accordance with the National Training Laboratories, that practice by doing, teach others, or immediate use of learning do have a higher retention rate compared than of lecture and of reading. Hence, we need to go with students' experience learning. Allow me to share with you asynchronous teaching tips. Asynchronous teaching tips. Kanina live, no? Ito student-based na teaching tips. You add personalized audio to support learning. If you are into podcasts, it do have a low bandwidth requirement, and I know that the students can access it. They can download it and they can just listen to it. In order for you to give a personalized touch and a teacher presence that, oh, it is my teacher who are talking to me and not only somewhere else in YouTube. Provide also student choice with assignments and be creative to keep it interesting. Very important also to be flexible with deadlines. That's why on my case, for example, gagawa ko ng Microsoft Forms. And then sa Microsoft Forms na yan, dyan magsusulat yung bata kapag, for example, hindi niya natapos yung module on a deadline kasi nawalan yung internet or nahihirapan siya mag-adjust or may nangyari sa bahay nila, they will just simply populate the form, and then I will know if whose students wants an extension. And it's okay to keep the learning old school also and unplug from technology from time to time. Like for example, yung ginagawa mo, yung instruction online, pero they will do it offline. Like for example, taking pictures anywhere, like for example, of doing something and then make a video of it and then upload that in the learning management system. What will the students do? That's the very important question. What will the students do? Not just like this one. Ang dami natin ngayon, bumibili ng ring light kasi magle-lecture. But let's try to think about if it is effective or not in accordance with the cognitive load theory and the student engagement in the experiential learning theory. But we need to focus also on this, building blocks of online learning, instruction, modeling, discussions, research and exploration, online text and podcast, quizzes and tests, reflection and metacognition, collaborative group work, practice and review. Not only of having lectures, but also try to think about the different learning types being targeted to, and not only lectures. Is the topic best served by a basic informative module? Or by something more engaging, like a collaborative group assignment? Would lecture be suffice? Or there would be another technique that might be engaging compared to having a lecture with our students? Make it come to life. Maybe your teachers add links to rich media with content and web content that you need to not only. Kasi minsan sa learning management system natin, puro lang text or magbibigay ka lang dyan ng YouTube video. Try to be varied also. Like slideshow, video, VR experiences, website. If you are into simulation, you can go to fet.colorado.edu. Sway, and a lot of more. Allow the students to learn in an engaging manner that they will interact and they will grow later on. And also, if you love video, but do not give only a plain video, but try to make activities out of the video as well. Like if you are into video annotation, you can use Edpuzzle. If you are into readings, you want to give essays, and then you can use perusal. And then there would be text annotation. You can have activities in the text that the students are reading. So in order for that text and in order for that video to be engaging. So we need to have a variety of online classes, not only lecture, but you can give readings, you can give pictures, diagrams, experiments, videos, podcasts, and assignments, and not only lectures, not only text, but we need to be varied in the learning modules that we are doing, in the online activities that we are doing. So big ideas for the second. Let's try to think about always of learner access. What is the majority of my students? They do have stable internet connection or maybe not. The learner autonomy also, if they can learn on their own, and as well as the type of the task that we are doing. Lastly, let's try to talk about the method. Let's try to talk about the method. That great learning is driven by great teaching, regardless of the method of delivery. Regardless of the method of delivery, it's more of still on the presence of the teacher. These are the misconceptions on the virtual classroom management. That for us, if the students are listening, if the students are behaving quiet, you impose classroom discipline and they are learning. But that is a misconception. That there must be a reward and punishment in my online class. And that is also a misconception. We need to define classroom or virtual classroom management in accordance with Jacob Kooning. That we need to have with itness. That we need to have eyes on her back online, virtually. That we do know what they are doing, if they are on task or not virtually. And that is something that we need to be very vigilant about in times of distance learning. Classroom management can need to be applied online. It's all about teachers' values and attitudes. It's more of setting expectations and positive actions. And it's more of teaching, creating positive learning environment and proactive techniques, not only of reactive techniques. But also, there are three categories of teachers as classroom managers in accordance with the research of Coloroso. If you are a brick wall teacher, the students will not talk to you kasi may pader. If you are a jellyfish teacher, you are a type of teacher that the students might not give respect because you are wishy-washy, you are inconsistent. But one thing that we need to have is to become a backbone teacher. And a backbone teacher is greatly applicable to the characteristics of Gen Z, that they are democratic teacher, supportive, provide structure, and motivator. And these are the things that Generation Z wants to. They want to be given a choice, they want to be given a voice, and they want to be given a chance. One thing that we need to think about also is to design your classroom well. To prepare your digital classroom's look or motif, most especially for the primary grades, in order for you to be engaging and in order for you to be attractive to the students. Also, try to think about of technical orientation and etiquette for our students. Try to give already policies that the students need to follow or etiquettes that the students need to follow during your online class. In order for them to be aware that these are the do's and don'ts for them. As well as, let's try to apply still the golden rule, respect and trust. That you give the students opportunities or you give the students policies and rules that they need to respect and to trust each other even though it's online, but have zero tolerance for bullying and disrespect. Digital parenting for kids is also very important. That we are in an era of learner autonomy and flexible learning, that the students need to be given a responsibility, and as early on as now we need to teach them that they need to be responsible in their learning. Hence, parenting needs to be semi-supervised, not what is being flashed in the picture. That online classes, behind the camera, there is a parent who are taking a look constantly of the kids. Hence, that is a wrong practice of what we are doing. Try to teach them to be responsible. Allow me to end my presentation with three things. We need to build virtual community. We need to connect with our students, and we need to walk with our students step by step on how to access technology. To start small and not of big things. To hook first with our students with fun. Realistic expectations is also very important, that we are open for mistakes. And it is where through mistakes that learning and growth happen. Connecting with students virtually. Again, it can happen either synchronously or asynchronously. Get comfortable with video already, because there are teachers still who are camera shy. Give students options. And very important, we need to give classroom procedures already. Like for example, that the students need to go online already 15 minutes before the time and not 5 minutes before the time or during on time. That we need to create realistic expectations for learning. That your expectations might not be applicable on their end. You need to think about that also. And also, we need to provide more opportunities for the students to be creative and not only of reading a lot of papers. Stay connected, monitor progress and follow up. And that is one thing of promoting teacher presence to our students. Start small. Hook your students in with something fun. Let them see that we can still feel connected from a distance. This is what they are looking for now. And I'm very happy that I read a comment from my student last time. And he told me that, sir, your class is just like that. We feel your presence. That parang sabi niya, parang nag-face-to-face classes pa rin kami, sir, kapag nagka-klase ka. That's good. So connect with proper etiquette. Pace transitions and waiting time. The challenge of the students now that most of the time the teacher now is too fast. Use engaging games, and that game would be very useful also in giving of checkpoints that you check if they are learning, as well as acknowledge internal and external distraction. Internal is that they might not be listening to you due to poor internet connectivity. External distraction might be that they are doing a lot of things, other things on their end. But you need to begin talaga with motivation as an entry point. And we need to use group process and interactive games. Like we need to divide them into breakout rooms. Establish routines to develop students' responsibilities. From the moment that they enter the class, they enter the online class, they need to be sit back, they need to show their videos, mute their microphones, and then automatic na dapat. Kasi we develop routines already to our students and they are responsible with it already. Set realistic expectations. Learning with new technology takes time, but we can do it. We are all on this together. Expect challenges. Expect a lot of questions on the first week or second week of classes. You can work the kinks out as you go, and we are all in this together. You need also to provide student feedback. Let your students know how they're performing, if they are doing the right thing. And when possible, find thoughtful and creative ways to connect with your students. And try to ask them also if your teaching style would suit them or what are their dilemmas that you might not be aware and they are already do have a hard time with your class. One thing that I did last week is that I made a Microsoft form with my students. And then I asked them of a week one satisfaction survey, if they are satisfied or not. And then I put suggestions and recommendations. And then they gave me suggestions and recommendations that I'm too fast, that I need to extend my deadlines. So these are the things that we need to take a look, given that all of us, not only us teachers, but also our students are journeying on something because of adjustments. So for this third part of my webinar, don't add to the anxiety. Try to ask and try also to feel, to be emphatic to our students. Respect diverse contexts, that the context of this certain student might not be applicable to you. Like for example, there's not all do have a high-end Android phones, that not all do have a stable internet connection. Relate with students and peers. Try to give them something to talk. Try to give them opportunity to talk with each other. Expect errors and failures and use that errors and failures to teach them, because that is a teachable moment. And be realistic, my dear teachers. Be realistic on what we are doing with our online class, on our online class. So be realistic. So hence, that is, it encapsulates my talk, my webinar this morning. The context of our students now, the content, and the method on how to manage them in an online class or virtually. Let's put all together. Let's put it all together. Take time to breathe, my dear teachers. Kasi baka ang dami mo ng question sa buhay mo, ang dami mo ng question sa buhay mo, ang dami mong question sa trabaho mo, baka nagkaka-high blood ka na. Baka ang dami mo ng sakit kapag ganyan. Take time to breathe and do not be responsible for everything because we are all new on this. You cannot solve everything or all of the problems that you are encountering now. That what you are experiencing now is also experienced by someone else or by all of us. Practice in order for you to be a master of the craft that we are facing now. Communicate. Try to talk to another teacher. Try to talk with your friends. How to go about it. Teach me, coach me, learn. Because practice makes progress. These are the words that I want to leave you. To breathe, to practice, to communicate, to learn. Because practice makes progress. Thank you very much, everyone, and a blessed morning to all of us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we will proceed to the question and answer portion. Our first question is from Arceli Capio. In this VUCA world, can you please give us an idea on how to sustain students' attention span while we are teaching in a small box?
Very good question. Number one, chunking. Chunking, that's very important now. That we need to chunk our lessons and even our live classes in three or depends on the content that you are having. Like what I did now, that I give you an outline and then you need to give the students the target on what to achieve. Like what I did, content, the context, the content, and the method. And try to give in between checkpoints for the students. Number two, try to be engaging. Not only of giving lectures, but also try to give them activities asynchronously that they can do, that they can practice what you have, that you gave in your live classes. Make always connection with the asynchronous activities with that of your synchronous activities. And that would be very helpful for our students and you as teachers now. Thank you for that question.
Thank you so much, sir. Our next question is from Christine Salves Santos Manal. Is it okay for teachers to let students like grade 6 to do reporting? May iba po kasing teachers na yung mga students ang nagdi-discuss ng buong lessons for the class. Tapos hindi man lang nag-i-input o nagdadagdag ng kahit anong information sa report ng students.
Grade 6. Let's try to think about of the cognitive framework and to the readiness of the students. Very important in the primary and intermediate grades that our presence as teachers, that even college or even senior high school, they don't like that because the content or the input might be coming from us. But on our end or on my end, one thing that you need to think about is to make your online asynchronous modules to be self-sufficient and try to make your live classes as moments of talking to them or as moments of giving them something or moments of connecting with them. Because baka you forget already your presence as teacher. You let them feel your presence as a teacher. So kapag nagre-report lang dyan, so napakahirap. They cannot feel your presence as a teacher if that is the case. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir. And our next question is from Megan Garcianos. Sir, any tips po on how we teachers can effectively show emotional and moral support to our students in a distance learning setup?
Good. Very good. That's a good question. Yan nga sabi ko, na dapat yung asynchronous natin ng mga materials might be self-sufficient or self-sustaining. Meaning that it will lessen our input during the live classes. So therefore, the live classes would be opportunities for the students to clarify na lang, but not to give input. To clarify na lang. And also, during that live classes, it's also good or it's also a time for you to check them emotionally, to check them of what are the things that bothers them. So, hindi na siya puro input lang, meaning you give time to them to talk during that live classes. Yun nga sabi ko, that uh, pre-recorded videos is also good, that you record your input or your lecture and then you upload that in your learning management system so that you will no longer give too much of lecture during your live classes. But it would be a personal touch of an instructor's presence, of a teacher's presence during the live classes. And that's one way of answering the social emotional learning aspect of distance education. So thank you for that question.
Thank you very much, sir. That's all the questions we have for now. Any last reminders to our viewers for today po?
Thank you very much for watching. Try to breathe, to practice, and to communicate with each other so that we could hurdle this from behaving to belonging, and then we can connect with our students virtually. Thank you very much, Vibal. Good morning, everyone.
There we have it. In behalf of Bibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this very eye-opening and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, sir. And to all our Kavibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.